welcome everyone to our October monthly coach call. Similar to our other meetings, just a quick agenda. We'll have an intro. We'll discuss the development of our trainer training that we have been keeping you all updated on. We'll have a general discussion and then open it up to case discussions if there's anyone who wants to share or discuss any specific cases that they're dealing with. We'll have a general Q&A. We'll have our raffle for a $20, $25, some dollar
25
gift card to Amazon. And then we'll be done here. And as you know, this is being recorded. So if you feel like you miss anything, we will put this presentation on YouTube and then we'll put it in our newsletter for November. So no worries. Before we get started with the main part of the presentation, I'd like to go around just so we know who we have on the call and say our names, agencies, and your favorite dessert. I know, try to get some fun things in there. So I'm Hannah Traphagen. I work here at K-Cart with the Oasis team. My favorite dessert is a lemon bar.
Let's see. My name is Vanessa Snyder. I'm the project coordinator for the Oasis grant here at K-Cart. And my favorite dessert, I'm kind of torn between rainbow cookies, Italian rainbow cookies, and a tiramisu. So I'll leave it at both.
I'm Kari. I'm sorry, I'm not on video. And I'm gonna have to hop off early today. I've got another meeting, but I am with Integrated Behavioral Technologies. And I'm the clinical service supervisor, and I still do some direct work and assessments and all of the things. And my favorite dessert depends on the day, but anything red velvet's pretty amazing.
Awesome.
I'm already salivating.
Amber, you're next on my screen. So I'm calling you.
Okay. My name is Amber Mandler. I work for the New England Center for Children, and I live overseas. Let's see, my favorite dessert is probably anything with salted caramel. I've got a big thing for salted caramel, so you can put it on whatever you want. I'll be happy.
Yes, I can go. I am Brittany Batten. I'm at the University of Florida, and I will pretty much eat any dessert.
I respect that for sure.
Okay, and I'm Allison Burkhart. I'm a BCBA here in Great Bend at Sunflower Early Education Center. And I would have to say my favorite dessert would be peanut butter pie.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for all joining today. We're excited to have a pretty representative sample here from all over. So thank you guys. So our September meeting, you might have noticed in our newsletter, we have the recording in the October newsletter for the September meeting. So if you missed it, you can definitely go back and view that. We mostly discussed certain obstacles that coaches are encountering. So it was a good discussion that we had about how to problem solve and be engaged with the parent training. So if you do need to view that, it is in the newsletter or the link is right here. I can put it in the chat for you all as well, in case you want to review that. So just a couple of updates on our trainer training, which is always a mouthful, unless you say train the trainer training, and then it's even worse. We are in the development process of this training with the projected start date of our first cohort in 2022, probably in the late spring or early summer. As we are still developing this, we're considering different prerequisites for being able to enroll in the trainer training. Right now, we're considering a requirement of completing a certain number of families with the Oasis parent training to have more experience as a coach prior to being qualified to become an Oasis trainer. So at this point, we don't have like a set number in mind of how many parents you would need to train to what percentage of completion before being eligible, but it's just something we want to put out there to you guys. So if you're interested in trainer training, understanding that there will probably be some level of requirement of experience as a coach to be qualified for that trainer training. And so while we're kind of talking about that, we just wanted to kind of open it up and see who thinks that they might be interested in going through trainer training. I know it's really early on in our process, but we're just trying to gauge interest and see, you know, how big might our first cohort be. And so you can either put in the chat, yes, I'm interested, no, I'm not interested, or you can unmute yourself as well. And again, this would be awesome, Brittany. This would be a trainer role within your agency so that you would be able to train other coaches, like within IBT or within your university or wherever you're at, so that you would have that capability and not have to come, you know, all the way through us. Awesome. Thank you guys. It's exciting to see that you guys are interested, because me and Vanessa are working pretty hard on developing it. So we understand it's not going to be for everyone. It might not be realistic for everyone to do it. They might not have the capacity at their agency or whatever the case might be. But it's definitely something we're working hard on and hopefully will be exciting to implement.
Yeah, and it looks like we have interest in other areas around the United States, which helps because, you know, it is a little tricky navigating trainings when we have time differences. Dr. Zhang and I are currently the only trainers, so if we can get more people trained, you know, that would definitely be helpful. We have people reaching out really interested in training. We just put a date out for December and February, and our December one is already almost full, and we literally just put that training date out. So people are interested, especially even more so because it's covered by a grant right now and it's free training and it's free materials. So we still have, like, we're on year 3 of a 5-year grant. So there is time to definitely train a lot of providers and get those materials out and, you know, disseminate to a larger population.
And Kari, I see you said time constraint, which definitely is something we're considering as we're developing this. How can it be practical and realistic for people to go through this training? How much of it can we make asynchronous versus synchronous? These are all things we're taking into consideration so that hopefully when the time comes, it's realistic for our coaches to go through this and not having to take 4 weeks off of work to do it and become qualified.
Allison, I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot, but you were one of our first trainees for coach training, and that itself evolved and went through so many different modifications because, you know, even when we did the coach training, it took us a long time for Allison's first cohort because we didn't do role play. I think the rest of those that actually did coach training, you guys did role play. For Allison, we used a real family, and we were scheduling appointments and actually doing the sessions. It ended up becoming a 4 to 6 months training. And we realized, and we're like, okay, this is not going to work. So we made modifications, and we definitely have learned from that. So, you know, learning all of that from the last grant, we definitely are cognizant of how we're going to build this trainer training and be mindful of, you know, your time and make sure that we get you trained in a pretty timely manner.
I was just typing a question. I was asking about what are the minimum requirements for coaches to be able to work with parents? Because I'm trying to decide if I would have enough staff to be able to train. Do you know what I'm asking? Like, as far as like billing codes, because we're just getting up and going in our ABA. And I'm just trying to think as far as who can bill for this through our agency.
I think it really depends on the agency. Even for us here, you know, we have autism specialists that bill incident to Dr. Heitzman Powell. So if you have a billing provider and that billing provider is overseeing the implementation of the service, that can be an option as well. I'm not sure what your agency looks like, but, you know, for me, I'm not a BCBA, so I'm billing psychotherapy codes, and we're billing OASIS parent training utilizing psychotherapy codes. The RBT is billing incident to Dr. Heitzman Powell, And I'm trying to think of the other credentials and what that potentially looks like.
So you're saying RBTs or IIS level are able to bill as long as it's supervised?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other thing I had a question, I know I talked to Dr. Linda too about doing like standalone, because I am a BCBA, so I'm the only one that oversees. We don't have psychologists or anybody else to bill this service. And we talked about like, as far as doing parent training plan alone and not, because we have a lot of kids on the waiting list, to be able to do that while they're on the waiting list, but submitting that to Medicaid or to insurance for approval.
Yeah, we
does
can
anybody have any
definitely
experience?
send you a template of what we submit and what that looks like. Because Dr. Zhang, we have to submit specifically for the ABA codes, and hers is a little different to navigate versus what I don't need any prior auths, billing psychotherapy codes. So I can send you what we use for Dr. Zhang and what that looks like.
That
If
would be
anyone
very
else, yeah, if anyone else needs to see that, please let me know and I'll shoot you an email.
Awesome. Thank you for the great questions. Yeah, Amber, I'll write your name down as well.
Will do.
I actually also had a question about the billing and the structures of setup. So if I wanted to get experience as an individual and as a BCBA, and I wanted to take on a client as myself, what would I need to establish myself as a provider independently? Like, would I be able to do in order to bill through insurance? Again, I don't know because I'm not in the US right now, but I will be. And so I'm just wondering, like, if I wanted to do it outside of, I'm going to be with an agency, but I'm not sure who or when yet. So if I wanted to do it on my own,
Okay.
would I need to establish myself as a company, or is there a way for me to do that as an individual?
That is actually a good question, and I might need a touch base with Linda, Dr. Heitzman Powell. One, because I've always been surrounded in an agency and actually haven't gone through that process. So I'll have to find out if any of her clinicians from her agency have gone through that process and what that looks like.
Just
That's a
wondering.
great
'Cause I
question.
think- yeah, and if I want to get experience as a coach, and then I want to be able to train other people at the organization that I join, but
Yeah.
I'm not personally providing that service in order to get the experience, I'm trying to look for ways to get that experience outside of that setting. Like, I don't think I think in my job role of the one that I take, I don't think I'm going to be doing direct parent training. So I want to know if I can somehow finagle a way to get the experience and the hours to train other people so that we can one day have the other, train other people to do it as part of the organization. But until we get to that point, how can I get the experience myself?
I don't know if what you're asking is about like the credentialing process, like through the insurance, like to be able to be an independent provider. Is that what you're asking?
Well, maybe, yeah. Part of it is that for sure. Is that what I need to, like, what? Yes. Can you tell me more?
Okay. So I guess because we've just gone through this, and that was one of my big things when I decided, as I was pursuing my BCBA, is do I want to work for an agency? But we're in a very rural area, so I know that there are a lot of just individual private practice BCBAs in my area. So I know it's possible that you can go through the credentialing process with whichever insurance you want to accept. Like here in Kansas, I mean, we started with Medicaid because majority of our kids have Medicaid. And then as you branch out, you can add services, but I think it's definitely doable to become an individual private practice BCBA, and then you could take on your own individual clients and bill separately from whatever work you do for an agency, is my understanding.
Okay, so it's possible to do both simultaneously, to be underneath an umbrella and on your own.
I believe so. Well, I guess I do know that because one of the BCBAs who did my supervision, she had her own individual practice, but then we contracted with her in our agency. So she was under our agency because she did some contract with us and provided my supervision under the agency. And then she also had her individual practice. So yeah, it is doable. And this is Kansas, so I'm assuming it would be wherever you end up.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you for the hive mind thinking process here of how to troubleshoot some of these things. I like it. So now we're going to go through just a couple of discussion questions that we have just to kind of help with some things that you might have come across or might come across in the future. So how have you adapted the skill assessment activities to address different functioning levels of children?
Okay, it looks like we have a crowd of people that are still new to using it. So I'm going to kind of jump in here. Brittany, feel free to chime in if I know you've utilized it. Oh, she left too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
We just have Allison and Amber, a nice small intimate meeting today.
just kidding. So it is us three. So when we look at the skill assessment activities in the parent training, you know, it is geared towards our early learners, but sometimes we have, you know, obviously older patients that are functioning at a lower level. So a lot of these skills may apply. But, you know, really we're using our clinical judgment. Do we need to modify some of these activities to best cater to the children and the parent? So, you know, it's not set in stone. When you look at the skill assessment activities, they are suggestions. And if you need to modify it, then honestly, feel free to do so. We've entertained different ideas of like how to potentially increase the amount of activities. So like we thought about different levels of making maybe for early learners and then for some of our older patients, because we are getting a lot of clinicians that are working with an older population. As far as you guys, what's the age range that you guys are working with?
Mine are like 2 to 6. So I've got the little bitties.
You have the itty bitties.
Yeah.
I've got a wide range. So my youngest is 3 and my oldest is 20. So
Yeah. And I think, you know, Dr. Zhang would be the perfect one. She's got some older kids that she's working with right now with using OASIS. And a lot of the activities in the skills assessment were not very helpful to the parent. And it basically, their sessions are, you know, doing schoolwork and some of the things that they're experiencing in school. So Dr. Zhang has been able to fine tune a lot of our activities to cater to this family. But me too, I have the itty bitties.
Awesome. And then how have you used or would you use, if you have not experienced this before, other activities outside of the clinical setting to tailor this OASIS program to families and clients' needs? So how to practice strategies outside of the session, going to the store, going to the school, different settings, I guess.
I think that in itself kind of answers it, right? Going to the store, going to the school are different things. Amber, what is it like out there? Because I know in Hawaii, a lot of my sessions, I've had sessions at the beach. It was them not wanting to touch the sand or them engaging in a meltdown because they did not like the feeling of the sand or the water terrified them. And we'd actually have sessions at the beach. So
yeah, I go everywhere and anytime. I've gone to a house at 4:30 in the morning so that I could wake up the kids for school and be part of that process. And so it's the same. One thing that came to my mind is a lot of times parents will have issues at meal times. So maybe it's not going to a different place, but it's doing something that, you know, or even morning routines or evening routines. You could easily use some of those skill content areas to cover those which are really more practical for parents than a lot of the academic tabletop skills are.
Allison, I remember our sessions were at the home with you from what I recall many years ago.
Well, and that's what I was saying, what Amber was speaking to is I also still provide early intervention services for our 0 to 3 program. So, and all of our, most our home visits, I mean, we have to do community-based or in the home. And every objective, I always struggle going back between my ABA goals, and then in Tiny K or early intervention, we do everything routine based or within the context of the family's routine. So like what Amber was saying is we pick a goal like increasing language, but we do it like within the routine of mealtime or snack time that the child will request using sign or vocal commands, you know, but we always do it within the context of the family setting or routine. So.
Absolutely. Sounds like you have a handle on this, kind of generalizing and using it in a situation that is going to be most beneficial to that family. We did want to open it up to either of you, the two of you here, to give some time if you have any cases that you wanted to discuss with mostly Vanessa. She's the one with the experience. I'm just the slide girl. But to kind of get us started, we did want to present just something that we have been experiencing, which is working with families coming from other cultures. So Amber, I mean, you're on the call, you're living overseas. And I know that we've had families from a lot of different backgrounds, even within Kansas. So how can we be culturally appreciative and helpful to parents or families during this process?
So I'll just talk about my experience right now. I'm actually starting today with the Vietnamese family, and it's my first one. And I may or may not require an interpreter if one of the parents show up, but that, as an Asian person, it is still a bit of a challenge in the communication there. Back in Hawaii for group supervision, we did have monthly supervision, and we learned about the different cultures on the island. So what was it like to go into the home of a Micronesian family or a Polynesian family or Japanese family, because the island was full of, you know, a lot of different cultures, and each one was very different. You know, I would expect working with a Japanese family not to make a lot of eye contact with me, and I would accept that. We were told to always accept food if they offered it to us, because that was the way we communicate. You give food and that's okay. You know, as long as they're not giving me a $500 check, I can take the food. So here in Kansas, I have a Vietnamese family, which luckily we have interpreter service here. And honestly, it's been a while since I've been here for a while. I've been here for what, 5 years now. So I'm reminded of some of the cultural differences and what I need to be mindful of. Amber, you came to mind this morning, and I actually said, I hope Amber's in the call, because I feel like she can relate being in a completely different country and experiencing, you know, what it's like to provide OASIS parent training to people who may not understand the language. I'm thinking back to our call where you had said it's more so you don't think they'll understand the jargon because they're not in IEP meetings, right? Nor does it matter to them, which made perfect sense to me. It's you're working with a population where there are no IEP meetings. Why do I need to learn this language? And is that too much for them, right? So, you know, our whole focus became culture and, you know, how do we do OASIS parent training and be mindful and culturally sensitive at the same time. So I'm going to encounter that today. It'll be my first time. I am a little nervous, so we'll see how that goes. But I am mindful of the differences and what I need to be aware of. So any thoughts for you guys, and just kind of.
think that the first thing that I always think about when I go into a house is just listening before I talk and hearing where they are. I think that's one of the ways that and being open to whatever it is that I encounter when I open that door. But also sort of preparing in my mind for the possibility of having to go slower. You know, like these are big concepts, and they were big when I started in the field, and I was already I was immersed fully at once, and it still took a while. So, you know, you have a goal, and I think it's also important to have the goals like you do laid out in the program. It's good to stay oriented to where you want to be, but also to be willing to break it down into smaller pieces if you need to. In my experience working with these families, they want you to fix it a lot. And so it takes some time to chip away at that in order to sort of, while they're not looking, increase skills. But yeah, I think that once you're exposed, I also find that once you're aware enough to know that you need to be alert, you know, like once you've done it enough with being culturally sensitive and culturally aware and exposed yourself to that a few times, you then generalize and you're like, okay, I know that I need to do this way. It might not be exactly the same way for every family, but your open eyes and your willingness to hear them first.
The one thing I find myself doing a lot, especially with, you know, our families that don't have access to the tutorials because we have it in English, right, is we're modeling it. We're showing them what that looks like. And we're really relying on the modeling component of it. The other thing that, you know, I'm navigating right now, and if you guys ever work with a family and using interpreter services, is sometimes you're going to get an interpreter that doesn't understand the jargon as well. So as I'm providing parent training to a Spanish speaking family as well, I get a different interpreter each time, which is really difficult because sometimes I'll have a great one. And then sometimes I have one that's like, I don't understand what you're asking me to translate. So I'm rewording everything in my head, hoping that that will be interpreted correctly. And then, you know, waiting for the translation to come around and see what that looks like. So, you know, it's definitely tricky. We're really hoping to get that Spanish tutorial out for families because there is a huge demand in Kansas. And now, yeah, we're starting to see some other languages and other families that are interested in it that, you know, we don't have a tutorial for them, and how do we navigate OASIS parent training? We're not just going to say, sorry, you know, we don't have it. We're going to try our best and provide parent training to them. And in that case, we're just doing a lot of modeling.
Yes. All right. Are there any other questions that you all have about what we talked about today, or anything else before we head on to our raffle? You got a 50-50 shot today, so it's looking pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Vanessa is pulling up her raffle thing. The generator, I guess, is better word than thing.
I have a Band-Aid on my thumb, so it's struggling. Okay. Connect to spin.
All right, it's spinning, it's spinning. Can you see it? This is it. Allison, congratulations. You won a gift card of some amount. It's either $20 or $25. We'll send you an email.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We'll send you an email with the information that you need. And that is everything. Thank you both for coming today. I think we had some really good conversations, and outside of this meeting, if you have any questions or need support of any kind, you can always reach out to us and email us at oasis@kumc.edu.
I was going to say, go ahead and add me to the list for the Train the Trainer. I'm just thinking if I can get some of our providers trained, I think that would be a huge help. So if you want to add me to the list to get more information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.